With communists, that human was no longer selfish. In America today, that human is no longer born male or female. And obesity is not something that affects health. You can be healthy at any size. Really, we voted on it. A formerly serious magazine last year published with a straight face an article called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Yes, it does. Because again, we haven't reinvented Homo sapiens since Crystal Pepsi came out. I've spent 3 decades on TV mocking Republicans who said climate change was just a theory, and now I gotta deal with people who say, you know what else is just a theory?
So let's dive straight in. Bill Maher is once again lighting up woke culture. And whether you think he's right or wrong, you can't deny he knows how to shake things up. For years, Maher's comedy was aimed at conservatives, mocking Republicans, ridiculing climate change deniers, and tearing into Bible Belt fundamentalism. But now that same sharp edge is slicing through his own political family. Democrats, progressives, and self-proclaimed woke warriors. And let's be real, they're not exactly laughing. Maher isn't just telling jokes here. What he's doing feels more like staging a cultural wake-up call, a kind of intervention for a movement drunk on hashtags and slogans, convinced it can bend reality to its will. Think about the comparison he makes. Communists once believed they could redesign human nature, create a new kind of selfless human who'd thrive in a collectivist paradise. Spoiler, that didn't work. People still wanted freedom, success, and comfort. Fast forward to now, and Maher argues we're chasing the same fantasy, only dressed up differently. Instead of the new Soviet man, we've got ideas like, gender doesn't exist, health has nothing to do with obesity, biology is just another opinion. Really? Biology is just a theory. Come on. Maher's point is simple. You don't get to rewrite the human species just because Twitter told you it was empowering. Reality always pushes back. Remember Crystal Pepsi in the 90s? It launched with hype, bombed instantly, and vanished. Bad ideas meet the same fate. And here's what makes this sting. Maher hasn't suddenly turned into a conservative. He's not out waving a MAGA flag. He's doing something far sharper, holding his own side accountable for losing touch with reality. That's why it cuts so deep. That's why progressives get defensive. Because the criticism is coming from inside the house.
With communism, and with some very recent ideologies here at home, is that they think you can change reality by screaming at it. That you can bend human nature by holding your breath. But that's the difference between reality and your mommy. Lincoln once said that you can repeal all past history, but you still cannot repeal human nature. But he's canceled now, so f*** him.
Be honest. When people start insisting that dividing sports by sex makes no sense, we've officially crossed from progress into fantasy. That's not compassion. That's not forward-thinking. That's just pretending biology doesn't matter. And when respected outlets run those claims with a straight face, it shows how far down the rabbit hole this
revolution. You need to study the part of revolutions where they spin out of control because the revolutionaries get so drunk on their own purifying elixir, they imagine they can reinvent the very nature of human beings. Communists thought selfishness could be cast out of human nature. Russian revolutionaries spoke of the new Soviet man who wasn't motivated by self-interest, but instead wanted to be part of a collective. No, it turns out he wanted to be on a yacht in a Gucci tracksuit holding a vodka and a prostitute. Not standing in line all day for...
Takes it even further, drawing a direct comparison between today's woke crusade and Mao's Cultural Revolution in 1960s China. And this isn't some tinfoil hat conspiracy. He's pointing to real parallels. Mao demanded the destruction of the four olds. Old customs, old culture, old ideas, old habits. Everything familiar had to go. Refused to play along. You got publicly humiliated, attacked, even destroyed.
ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have? Because again, in China, we saw how a revolutionary thought he could do a page-one rewrite of humans. Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being. A lot of pointing and shaming went on. Oh, and about 1 million dead. And the only way to survive was to plead insanity for the crime of being insufficiently radical, then apologize and thank the state for the chance to see what a...
Nobody's saying the woke left is executing people. But the mindset, the obsession with purging society, rewriting history, and silencing dissent, feels eerily familiar. Instead of red guards with dunce caps, we've got Twitter mobs with hashtags. Instead of government struggle sessions, we've got HR-mandated sensitivity trainings and groveling public apologies. Different tools, same psychology. Just look at Jason Kilburn, a Chicago law professor. On an exam, he referenced racial slurs but didn't even spell them out. He used abbreviations to illustrate a real-world legal scenario. Instead of applauding his attempt to prepare students for harsh realities, the university branded him a villain, suspended him, forced him through sensitivity programs, and demanded reflective essays. For what? For teaching uncomfortable truths about discrimination. That's not progress. That's
at the University of Illinois, Chicago, named Jason Kilburn, whose crime was that on one of his exams, he used a hypothetical case where a black female worker sued her employer for race and gender discrimination, alleging that managers had called her 2 slur words, the type of real-world case these students might one day confront. And knowing the extreme sensitivity of today's students, he didn't write the 2 taboo words on the test, just the first letter of each. He was teaching his students how to fight racism in the place where it matters most, the criminal justice system. But because he merely alluded to those words, again in the service of a good cause, he was banned from campus, placed on indefinite leave, and made to wear the...
It's not just academia. That same suffocating atmosphere has seeped into music, movies, even casual conversation. Remember Winston Marshall from Mumford & Sons? The guy tweeted that he liked a book. Not that he supported a hate group. Not that he showed up at a rally. He just said, "This is a good book." Within days, the outrage mob swarmed, and he was out of the band, apologizing like he'd committed some unforgivable crime.
Red Guard here, but they do their rampaging on Twitter. Here's a cute example from a couple of years ago. The banjo player from Mumford & Sons tweeted that he liked a book that apparently had not been approved by the revolution. So, of course, he had to delete the tweet, then take time away from the band. Oh my God, you mean this could have affected Mumford & Sons? And then the cringing apology, "I have come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorse." Pain? From a book? Unless he hit the drummer over the head with it.
About how absurd that is. Imagine John Lennon in the 60s writing revolution. His whole warning was about how noble ideals can collapse into madness when activists convince themselves they're building a new kind of human being. Lennon even warned against worshipping Mao. And yet decades later, here we are. Activists repeating the exact same mistakes Lennon said would destroy their...
John Lennon, who wrote a song called Revolution. And people who didn't really listen to it thought it was a rah-rah call for revolution. No, it was the opposite. The lyrics are, "You say you want a revolution? Well, you know, we all want to change the world. But if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't going to make it with anybody anyhow." There's a guy who understood how good intentions can turn into the insane arrogance of thinking your revolution is so fucking awesome and your generation is so mind-bendingly improved that you have bequeathed the world with a new kind of human.
And then there's the whole healthy at any size craze. Remember when that was untouchable? Obesity doesn't matter. Doctors are fat shamers. You can be perfectly healthy at any weight. Social media treated it like scripture. But here's reality. Obesity kills almost 300,000 Americans every year. That's not cruelty, it's cold statistics. Heart disease, diabetes, strokes. These aren't Twitter trolls. They're medical consequences. And yet instead of helping people face reality, woke influencers handed out comforting lies. Lives weren't saved. They were lost. That's not empowerment. It's cruelty dressed up as kindness.
Selfish. In America today, that human is no longer born male or female. And obesity is not something that affects health. You can be healthy at any size.
Maher's real hammer blow. Woke culture isn't about tolerance or inclusion. It's about obedience. Real diversity isn't just about skin color or pronouns. It's about thought. It's the freedom to argue, disagree, and still coexist. But step outside the woke narrative and you'll see how inclusive it really is. They don't want debate. They want silence. They don't want diversity of thought. They want conformity. And that authoritarian streak is exactly why Maher's message lands with so many people. Left, right, or center, everyone can feel that suffocating chill. That sense that one wrong word, one wrong joke, one clumsy tweet could blow up your life. It's exhausting. It's stifling. And it's strangling free thought.
This magazine last year published with a straight face an article called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Yes, it does. Because again, we haven't reinvented Homo sapiens since Crystal Pepsi came out. I've spent 3 decades on TV mocking Republicans who said climate change was just a theory, and now I gotta deal with people who say, you know what else is just a theory?
Kicker. While the woke mob spends endless hours fighting over pronouns and policing language, the rest of the world is racing into the future. We should be debating artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, how to prepare workers for automation, how to protect privacy in the digital age. But instead, we're still arguing over whether men and women exist. It's embarrassing. It's backwards. It's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. At the end of the day, Maher's clash with woke culture isn't just about comedy. It's about survival. About dragging people back to reality before society drowns in its own delusions. Because if we keep pretending biology is optional, if we keep punishing professors for teaching truth, if we keep canceling people for reading books, we're not advancing. We're collapsing. And that's the bitter irony. The woke left claims to be the future, the vanguard of progress. But strip away the hashtags and what's left isn't strength. It's fragility, censorship, and denial. Maybe Maher's not just cracking jokes anymore. Maybe he's doing something bigger. Forcing us to look in the mirror and ask the only question that matters. Do we want a culture built on reality? Or one built on fantasy? Because if we don't answer it, the woke mob will gladly answer it for us.